All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream with Matt Petrick and Grenada Distillers Ltd, the makers of Clarke's Court Rum. We have special guests Kirk, Seetahal, Makalani Manwarring, and Malika Crichton here. I'm going to let Matt introduce you to them in a moment. Real quick before we jump in, my name's Will Hookinga from Zavvy.co, and I know I see some familiar faces over there saying hello. Hi, everyone. As you may have noticed already, there is a chat window to your right, so feel free to say hello, let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have questions at any point during the presentation for Matt or any of our guests, you'll notice a little button at the bottom of your screen that says Ask a Question, so just click that and type your question in there. We'll be watching for questions throughout the presentation and save a little time at the end to answer any that we don't get to during the presentation. So lastly, please invite your friends to join. There's a share button at the top right. You can click that and invite anyone to join us. But with that said, Matt, I will turn things over to you now.
Yeah, thank you, Will. A pleasure to be back here. This is our, I believe, sixth session of our WRSPA member producers. If you're not familiar with WRSPA, they are the West Indies Rum and Spirits Producers Association, essentially the rum-making members of the CARICOM community. And WRSPA is an organization, an advocacy organization to promote and educate about rum and help out the various member distilleries. We've been covering the various distilleries, sort of going through them every 2 weeks. And we've had people like Demerara Distillers and St. Lucia Distillers and Money Musk National in Jamaica. This week, I'm very excited to have the Grenada Distillers Ltd. I was lucky enough to visit Grenada earlier this year before we couldn't wear. This was probably my last rum trip for quite some time. But I had a fantastic visit at Grenada Distillers Ltd. So much history, so much sugar industry things in there for me to see. It was really quite an experience for me. So I'm very excited to bring on Kirk, Makalani, and Malika. So let's jump in and very quickly introduce yourself. Malika, why don't you go first?
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Malika Crichton. I am the Lab and Quality Control Manager at Grenada Distillers Ltd. Basically, I'm responsible for all the laboratory tests, all the quality control and quality assurance done at Grenada Distillers, also for the food safety management system at Grenada Distillers.
Great. Well, thank you. Makalani, you're up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me, Matt. My name is Makalani Manwarring, and I am the production engineer at Grenada Distillers. My functions include a supervisory role throughout the different arms of the production department, as well as providing support to Malika as the food safety team alternate.
Great. And Kirk?
I'm Kirk Seetahal. I'm the operations manager here at Grenada Distillers. It speaks for itself, the post, but I have specific responsibilities for sales and marketing here.
Okay, so thank you all for that. Now let's jump into the slides and let's take people behind the scenes at Grenada Distillers.
Okay, I think, Grenada Distillers, let's, first, I know we have people from a wide cross-section all over the world tuned in. So I'll give you a little breakdown of who we are as a distillery, but also who we are as an island. It's Grenada. It's called the Spice of the Caribbean. We're famed for our aromatic spices and our organic chocolate. Nutmeg was introduced to Grenada in 1834 when a merchant ship on its way to England that was coming from the East Indies stopped into our port. They would have left some nutmeg trees here on the island. And of course, during a crop disaster during the Dutch-Indonesian trade in the 1950s, Grenada emerged as the spice isle of the Caribbean. And now we export 40% of the world's nutmegs. We're a tri-island destination. It's called Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We've got a population of about 100,000 people. We're affectionately known as Pure Grenada. Not only do we produce exquisite alcohol, we're known for 40 white sand beaches and, of course, the world-famous Grandlands Beach, 15 breathtaking waterfalls, 5 chocolate factories, 3 rum distilleries, and, of course, 30 dive sites, including the famous and the largest shipwreck in the Caribbean, the Bianca Sea. And also we're known for the world's first underwater sculpture park. To give you a brief history about Clarke's Court, we're the makers of Clarke's Court rum. We've been in operation since 1937. We're the largest and best known distillery in Grenada. Our factory is situated on the southern part of the island. It's Woodlands Valley to be exact, and that's in the parish of St. George. Clarke's Court derived its name from Clarke's Court Bay in Woodlands, which is just a few minutes away from the factory. Now, the history says that it comes from 2 different angles. It comes from the Dutch colonialists who would have attacked the town, Woodlands, that would be back in the 1670s, and they would have named it Courts Bay. And then the French came in after, and they would have reclaimed the lands and would have sold it to a gentleman by the name of Gedney Clarke, hence the name Clarke's Court. We are now called Grenada Distillers Ltd. We were formerly called the Grenada Sugar Factory. The distillery operations was just a small part of our operations back then. The sugar factory began operations in 1936, and the last time we produced sugar would have been around 1997. So we predominantly now produce rum. Today our sugar factory lies dormant, but we are open to visitors. It's more or less like a museum. So all of the equipment is there. A lot of tourists that come off the ships or come to visit Grenada, they do make it a part of the tour. So they're given a tour, and then of course at the end of the tour, they're able to sample some of our finest products. I know Matt would have done some extensive research on us. So Matt, feel free to chime in if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Around the 1960s, Clarke's Court became GDL's flagship brand. Prior to that, we were known as Trade Winds or Redneck. And that's, a brief synopsis of who we are, where we're from. But Matt, I know you created this really impressive article because you would have done some serious research. So feel free to chime in.
Sure, happy to do so. I took some notes. I had to go back and reread my own article. It seems so long ago that I wrote it. But like you said, founded in 1936, which was relatively late for a sugar factory and a distillery to have been built. By that point, the Caribbean sugar industry was under some serious stress. That most of the factories and things had been built prior. So it's actually a very, even though it's almost 80 years ago, it's still a relatively young distillery and sugar factory in the grand scheme of things. When it was built, it was originally designed to be a sort of a community resource. The company that built it, the company that built Grenada Sugar Factory, they obviously put in a small distillery as well, but it was primarily to process their own sugar. Like they had a small, or I think it was 4 estates, but it was primarily to deal with their sugar. But there were also, I think, what a text called pheasant farmers, around 171 pheasant farmers who could also take their cane to the sugar factory and get paid by the ton for it. I think at that time the rate was between $4 and $6 per ton of sugar cane that they delivered. So it was effectively a community resource, but primarily owned by a small number of shareholders. Around 1959, we noticed across the Caribbean, the price of sugar was so low that it was basically would have cost money for GDL or for Grenada Sugar Factory to make rum, or to make sugar, and that essentially they couldn't have sold it for profit. So they actually stopped making sugar and molasses, and instead said, we're going to take the sugar and reduce it down to cane syrup and then distill from that. So the rums changed around 1959 or 60 or so when they transitioned from molasses to cane syrup. As you mentioned, in 1960, the Clarke's Court brand was introduced. Jump forward 19 years, we had the Grenada Revolution, when a sort of a revolutionary governor came in and ran the country for about 4 years. During that time, they nationalized the sugar industry, or at least the Grenada Sugar Factory. They took control of that, took it out of private investors' hands. 4 years later, as we all know, or at least those old of us know, in '83, the American government militarily intervened, and as I understand it, the constitutional government was restored. At that point, some of Grenada Sugar Factory passed back to private control, but it was still predominantly controlled by the government by that point. It wasn't until 2001 that your current chairman, I believe that's his title, Leroy Nichols, was able to purchase a majority share of Grenada Sugar Factory, and it was around that same time that it became known as Grenada Distillers Ltd, which is the name we know of as today. And I think it was shortly thereafter we started seeing rum being laid down. I don't know if it was being done before that, but definitely by the early 2000s, we started seeing rum being laid down for aged expressions. So that's all I have to say about it. So let's keep going.
Yep. Next slide. Okay, we have a little video that shows you, our processes. So before we turn over to Makalani, who will run you through the processes, we'll look at the video.
From distant lands, the journey to become. The process begins. Molasses is fermented, resulting in a mixture called a wash. The wash is then distilled to remove any impurities and produce alcohol. The clean alcohol is then stored into bourbon barrels for aging. The aged rums are skillfully blended to produce authentic Grenadian rum, a wide choice to suit every palate. Proud to be the authentic Grenadian rum.
So we'll now turn it over to Makalani, who is going to run through the processes for us.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can hear me, right? Okay. All right. Apologies. My phone is actually frozen, so I can't see anyone. But as long as you can see and hear me, we'll work with it. Okay. So our process starts, of course, with molasses. And as Matt would have mentioned before, we would have initially been using cane syrup from our local supplies, but we've had to move over since the production of sugar cane locally, it became diminished.
Right. And
so we currently use.
I'll jump in really quick here. What people are looking at the screen right now is the inside of the sugar factory. This particular portion is not, as I understand it, is not used extensively right now, but it sort of shows you, it's a rather large building, interior of the sugar factory. And if I remember correctly, the actual distillery portion still is sort of towards the back of the photo, towards the right, if I'm remembering correctly. So anyhow, just so people know what they're looking at there. But keep going. Okay.
Right. So I'm seeing you now, so we can talk about it now. So what you're looking at is essentially that would be the gears used from our steam boiler at the time. It would serve to power up our distillery back in time.
And that was part of the cane crushing, your mill there,
right?
If I remember.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So here we are at the sugarcane molasses. So we currently use blackstrap molasses, and we import it through a supplier out of Central America. For our process, we typically like to get a quality of 80 to 85 degrees Brix with a total sugar in excess of 52%. To avoid too much fouling, we like to have our ash content in single digits percent-wise, but we would be okay with 10%. And our fermentable sugars, it's preferable that they exceed 50%. So that is
quick question: is the molasses you get in? Is it sufficient quality that you can just ferment it directly with water and yeast, or do you sometimes need to augment it with like higher sugar, like high test molasses?
No, we've during my time here, we've never had such an instance where we had to augment it in any way. So, yeah, our supplier is pretty good at providing us with a decent quality molasses. The only thing that we might experience from time to time is based on the varying ash content, which of course would have its implications in fermentation, but we see that affecting the distillery more due to fouling.
Okay. And can you share where your sources, where you source from primarily?
It's from Panama. We use Rosadani, and they procure the molasses and provide it to us. I'm pretty sure that persons who work in distilleries, they route it through there. I'm sure most of you know that we are currently experiencing some challenges due to the increased demand for molasses outside of the Caribbean. So it's an interesting new time for every distillery in the Caribbean.
Right.
So what you're looking at is our molasses storage tanks. I believe these were taken, Matt, when you would have visited us. So the large one to the back is our main storage tank, which holds the majority of our molasses. And based on our receipt, if we find that the tank is unable to hold it in its entirety, those two smaller tanks would hold it until they are consumed in our fermentation process. So this takes us over to the actual operation of our fermentation. When we are setting our vats, we do so in batches. There is no specific propagation step. All of it is actually done in one phase. That is when we mix our molasses, our water, our hydrated yeast, and our nutrient, which is a diammonium phosphate. We do it in batches of 7 to 8, depending on the sugar content of the molasses at that time. Because, of course, not a homogeneous liquid, and at different points you have varying degrees of sugar in the molasses. So we usually try to go for a desired brix of 18 to 20. So we have a fixed amount of molasses that we use, and we just add our water to ensure that our operators get to that specific point.
And this is, if I remember correctly, you're purchasing, I think it's a dry yeast, or did you purchase?
Yes, we purchase thermostack dry yeast. It's known to be a very stable yeast, and it's very robust, and it allows us to carry out our fermentation without the need for the propagation step. So this picture here is of an old mixing box. Since then, we would have built and installed a stainless steel mixing box to improve our sanitation measures. Because the mild steel would have been there for some time, so as part of our continuous upgrade, we would have installed that mixing box recently.
I need your pictures then.
Yes. Right, so as I said, it's a mixture of molasses, water, dry yeast with a desired brix of 18 to 20. So that usually yields us with a volume at the end of it of anywhere between 65 to 8,000 imperial gallons of unfermented wash in our vats. So our fermentation cycles take anywhere between 36 to 48 hours with a desired alcohol content of 5.5 to 6.5%. And as a fun fact, it's stated that we do propagate, and the yeast propagation and the fermentation takes place all in the same vessel.
Okay. And so you have just one basic fermentation recipe. You don't have different ferments for different distillation runs to make different styles of rum?
No, actually, and that would come in the phase for distillation. I can explain more, but it's just one recipe in our setup.
Okay.
Also, our fermentation takes place in open vessels. We don't have any closed or steel vessels for our fermentation. It's done in the open. The only real changes that we've made moves from having at least one mild steel vessel to having a completely stainless steel setup for now, and we're looking to, in the future, get some more tanks to improve our supply to the distillation columns.
And is there any temperature control on the fermentation?
Well, yes, we monitor all of our vats in 2-hour increments, and the thermostack yeast, it has a tolerance ideally anywhere up to between 35 and 37 degrees Celsius. Anything that exceeds 40 degrees Celsius, and you run the risk of secondary reactions taking place. I'm sure most of you know. So we do have a cooling tower and a heat exchanger system that can allow us to cool down our vessels if need be.
Okay, so it's a manual process. You don't have like an automated.
No.
Okay.
So once the vat has finished its fermentation cycle, it is then transferred into a beer well, which acts as the supply to our distillation system. It is a 2-column still comprising of an analyzer, which strips the alcohol from the fermented wash, and a rectifier, which serves to refine the rum and continuously distill it until we get to the quality that we're looking for. Now, with respect to the rectifier, it is about 33 feet in length, consisting of 45 trays. So if you're counting from the bottom up, we have 7 spirits draw-off valves that takes place between trays 43 and 39, followed by 7 light oils draw-off, 6 fusel oil draw-off points, and 3 reflux points on our still. So for our specific setup on a day-to-day basis, our feed rate is usually anywhere between 3 to 400 imperial gallons per hour. That is our nominal rate. As far as the columns go, it can't take a load past 7%. Otherwise, you run the risk of alcohol ending up in our leaves, which is something that no one wants. So we optimally want to go for 6.5%, and we're quite satisfied with that. Now, with respect to our streams, we have 2 streams that we take off. We take our distillate, that's usually anywhere between 17 to 18 imperial gallons per hour, and we have rectified heads that we take off at roughly 1.5 to 2.5 imperial gallons per hour. We also decant fusel oil from the still at the 5th draw-off valve. So we decant those in order to, minimize their presence in the column.
And how many days a year are you able to distill?
Well, typically we would probably operate for 10 to 11 months in the year, based on how things go. We're required to shut down between 500 to 600 hours for preventative maintenance. And at other instances, based on if we need to do our annual servicing of the boiler, you may have downtime due to that. But typically 10 to 11 months is how long we're able to run. And
do you recall what year, what type of still, or like who made the still and when it was installed?
If I'm not mistaken, this is a John Doerr and Co. column. I was actually looking at the original drawings not that long ago. It was installed, I believe, in the 70s. Can't recall the year right now. Yeah. So before we get to aging and blending, our collection on a daily basis is appraised organoleptically as well as as well as samples being submitted to QC. So we test for alcohol content, of course, pH, and specific gravity and temperature. The main thing that we do is we carry out our organoleptic appraisals based on the quality of the notes we get from the run. We decide whether it's suitable to blend our finished goods, that is our pure white and our regular rum, or if it would be better suited towards our aging process. So with that said, when it comes to our aging, sorry?
I would say, so what is your typical ABV you distill at? So how high, what percentage alcohol is your typical distillate at?
Anywhere between 95.1 to 95.6. That's how we operate. We, by law, we're not supposed to go below 94 in our distillation process. Otherwise, the operators at the still would need to make adjustments, possibly allow the column to resaturate for the strength to build up before we could begin extraction.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks for that. Keep going.
So with respect to our aging, what we do is we import our casks from Brown Forman whiskey casks, and we often supplement with oak chips during our aging process. Before we actually add our distillate to cask, we may add some oak chips to improve the flavor. So from there, it is stored away in our cask room. We currently have a setup for pallets. We don't do racks, we do pallets. And most of our blends follow in the age range between 1 to upwards of 8 to 12 years. I'm sure we could get into that a little bit more once we start talking about the product. And outside of the aged rums, all of the other things that we do as far as blending goes is just done to specification. The one thing I would like to make mention of is with respect to Matt. I know you were alluding to two different, if there are any different forms of distillate that we might extract. And there's only one particular incident when that takes place, and that's for one of our products called Original Pure White. Right? It is touted to be a product that would have been the initial version before it was converted to what is now our flagship product, the regular Pure White. And to do that, what we simply do on the distillery is we replace the draw-off valve where we extract our distillate from. So typically, if we're extracting from valve number 4, which would be the middle of our 7th valves, we would be taking lower at valve 6. That's if you're taking from the top down. Additionally, we would have to make adjustments to the reflux, and we would open the second of the 3 reflux valves, and we would just have to reduce the amount of steam that's being supplied to the analyzer from 30 pounds per square inch to somewhere around 22 pounds per square inch. And that is what we use to get the profile that we need for that particular type of rum. It is not something that we do often, which is why you would be very lucky if you have to visit us while we're in the process of doing such.
Now I need to find a bottle of it.
So with respect to our spice rums, just going back to the aging and blending, that is specific. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Right. There's a specific spice rum that we blend. It's called our Black Gold. We blend it separately. We add our formulation to it, and we actually place it back in the cask to give it some more woody flavor. That's part of how we do that particular aging, but we could go into that a little bit later when we start talking about the individual products. And what you're seeing here is a picture of our cask room. Currently, there's over 20, well, by now, actually, it's probably around 3,100 casks that's currently present in our storage, ranging uh, from 2011, I believe, is our oldest cask that we have on hand right now.
All right. So I'll come in here to cover the bottling aspects.
Right.
So once the rums are blended, it will be approved by the lab, by quality control, to ensure that it makes all the specifications that we've set out, particularly appraisal of the product, where we do aroma and tasting to ensure consistency between each batch. Then from there, it goes to the bottling stage, right? Currently, we have 2 bottling lines, one for our PET and one for the glass bottles. So basic steps, we rinse all the bottles, pass through a rinser, right? Then they're filled, they're capped and labeled, and we code the bottles before packaging them. Throughout the entire process, we have quality control, starting ensuring the rinser is operating properly, the fill heights, the fill volumes are accurate, checking the torque on the caps to ensure that it's not too tight, not too slack, no cutting is going on. We also do vacuum filtration through all our filler heads just to verify that no inclusions, no particulates are entering into the product. So this is done throughout the bottling process as a form of control. Thereafter, we ensure that the code is accurate. So we'll code all the bottles with our manufacture date as well as the batch number so that we have proper traceability for it. And that's it basically for our bottling. It's a very small bottling line, nothing too elaborate, but it does the job for us. Right, this is actually another old picture that Matt had here while we were in progress of building a new bottling line. So this year, yes, you do, for sure. This year we actually, yes. This year we actually built a new bottling line to replace the existing line that does the glass bottles. So that's what you see on your right-hand side there of the photo. It was in process. Right, so on to our COVID-19 initiatives. Well, COVID has been the name of the game for most part of 2020. It continues to affect us all, affect us in several ways. We now have to be extra sanitary, have extra controls in place. However, because we do have a food safety management system in place, it wasn't too difficult for us to ensure that we had all the necessary things in place. So we install automatic dispensing systems for hand sanitizing right through, especially in the areas that are high traffic. So, and all the processing areas, all the administrative areas, upon entry of the facility, upon entry of our store on the facility, we have sanitizing stations installed. We also have increased the frequency of sanitation. So we use our own sanitizing solution or met spirits or bleach, depending on what the area is, to continuously sanitize high contact areas, such as your door handles, knobs, railings, phones, all, the high contact things. All the employees are required to wear face masks. They're required to social distance. where necessary, we wear the gloves. We've trained them in proper use of the PPE to ensure that the contamination is not transferred. So we also installed a temperature screening device at entry to the facility. So anyone entering the GDL compound must get their temperature taken. Thankfully, all has gone well with that. And well, opportunity, in the midst of challenges, it's very key that we find opportunities. And so we, like most of the other distilleries, we started to produce a sanitizing solution. I actually have a bottle here. It's nice and blue, right? So we produce the sanitizing solution, which we use internally as well as we sell to the public. We also do a hand sanitizer, but currently we're only using it for our internal hand sanitizing stations. So we're fighting back COVID. We won't let it fight us and get us down. Right. So at GDL, we are also ISO certified to the 22,000 standard, which is the Food Safety Management System. We are currently certified to the 2005 version. However, we are required to transition to the revised standard, which is the 2018 standard. So at the moment, we are working really, really hard to go through this transition in time for our audit early next year so that we could achieve the certification to the revised standard. The food safety management system is very important to us because it is a great framework that we can use to ensure that all the products that we produce are done at a high quality, done in a food safe manner. So that way we know our customers get a product that is safe to consume. So the standard is really important to us, to the GDL team. So we do all we could whole year. So we could go through the grueling audits, the internal and external audits, and all the documentation and control measures that go with having a food safety management system. But it has been working for us well.
That's great. And I think now, if I remember correctly, Kirk is going to tell us about some of GDL's products.
Yes, well, we have quite a range of products. I'll dive into our premium rums first. We have Black Gold, and of course, that reflects the history, passion, and personality of a family, the company, the country, where for years rum and nutmeg have played a significant role in our daily lives. Consequently, the passion and personality forms the nucleus of the social character and the authenticity of this product. The mother liquor for the production of this product was produced by our very own local fermentation and distillation process. The mother liquor was originally aged in carefully selected oak barrels and then blended or infused with our own local spice extracts. And of course, it also goes in for a second set of aging. This process is responsible for the exceptional smoothness, full body, and rich spice flavor to satisfy every palate. This rum is premium age, 5 years old, and infused with nutmeg, 46% alcohol by volume, 92 proof. We also have our number 37. In 2010, on the 37th anniversary of our independence, number 37, a limited edition 8-year-old rum, was launched. And of course, it was launched to commemorate the 300th anniversary of the town of St. George. Now, as the town matured, so too has the rum, because we now, in 2016, we added a 12-year-old premium rum.
I haven't got all that.
What's that?
That's what I brought back. That's what I brought back from Grenada.
Okay, good. So we now have an 8 and a 12-year-old. It's rich aroma, aged to perfection in oak barrels, mellow with time, and double matured. We also have our Clarke's called Old Grog, and this has a really quaint history. Old Grog dates back to the early days when the finest of Grenada rum was shipped to His Majesty George III of England. To identify the King's rum, the casks were marked GROG, which is the abbreviation for Georgius Rex Old Grenada. Old Grog rum maintains the tradition of producing the finest blend rums. It is aged spirits and it is copper gold in color. It has a silky entry lead and it's medium body with a tropical fruit, spice flavor, and oak elements that lingers on smoothly. Old Grog has medaled gold several times and it is 40% alcohol by volume and 80% proof. I'll now move over to our dark rums. We have our Clarke's Court Special Dark Rum. It's a warm, mellow rum, golden in color, blended and aged in traditional oak barrels, of course. Special Dark is 40% alcohol by volume, 80 proof. Well-loved for those who prefer the gentler tasting rum. Special Dark has won numerous gold medals. Of course, you know we're the Spice Island, so we do have a spicy rum. It is golden in color, expertly blended with locally grown spices and strong rum, and has been aged in oak barrels. It's bold, spicy, has a smooth flavor, which is truly unique. Its robust blend definitely capturing authentic taste of the Spice Island. Has won numerous gold medals. Spicy rum is 69% alcohol by volume and 138 proof. Now we move over to our white rums, and of course our Clarke's Court Pure White is the principal product of the Clarke's Court brand. Made from molasses, Pure White is exquisitely blended, which gives this rum the special flavor and Eastery aroma. It is bottled at 69% alcohol by volume, 138 proof, and it's the definite experience. Pure White is great for punches. It can also be drunk straight with, of course, a dash of bitters. It's an excellent mixer. Can also be used as a food preservative. Has won several international double gold awards. A 16-time international gold medal winner, and of course counting. We also have the Clarke's Court Superior Light.
I'll add really quick. Also at 69% ABV, it's just strong enough to allow you to be able to bring it home. If it was any higher, you couldn't bring it home on the airplane.
You couldn't bring it home, definitely. Yeah. We have the Superior Light. It's aged to perfection, has a clean, fresh taste. It's also a gold medal winner, numerous golds. It is light, mellow, at 40% alcohol by volume, 80 proof, and it's perfect for those who prefer that lighter rum. We also have something called Pure Jab, and of course it's born out of our festival, which we should have been experiencing this week. This weekend would have been our Spice Mass, our national festival, but due to COVID, it has been cancelled. One of the premier characters out of a Spice Mass is called the Jab. So we created this product. It is a strong rum. It's good for mixing with Coke or soda water, even fruit juices. There are many interpretations of it because, of course, it's an authentic character in our mass, so loved by many people during Carnival. It's 55% alcohol by volume and 110% proof. We also have some flavored products. We have a rhythm coconut rum, a Grenadian mojito, a rum sorrel, a rum lemon, and a passion fruit rum. Of course, they're about 25 to 35% alcohol by volume, usually between 50 to 70 proof. Those are the products there. We do also have some overproof rums, and we need to move on to that slide. Yeah, we have a Clarke's Court White Ball, and White Ball is a unique blend of overproof rum. It's 75% alcohol by volume, 150 proof. It's strong but smooth rum that finishes with a pleasant tingling sensation and satisfying taste. And we also have our Clarke's Court Black Jack, which is sparkling clear, clean and fresh, pleasantly smooth, a fun time overproof rum, 70% alcohol by volume. We also have our liqueurs. We have our amazing chocolate creme liqueur. Grenada boasts of the best cocoa in the world, and Clarke's Court the best rum. So it was a perfect marriage. In every bottle, there's a combination of national pride, a passion of the agriculture and manufacturing, international manufacturing standards. Amazing Chocolate is an indulgent blend of quality cream, local cocoa, local distilled spirits. Every bottle reflects the inventive passion and spirit of who we are as a Grenadian people. It's 20% alcohol by volume and it's 40% proof. And we have our Camerhorn Spice Liqueur, which is also award-winning. It's a delicious spice rum liqueur. It was born in the history of Grenada. Camerhorn is the Amerindian name for Grenada and lends itself to this unbelievably rich and absolutely unforgettable liqueur. It's smooth and spicy, fruity in flavor, as well as balance. Its exotic taste can seduce any drinker towards the height of indulgence. This one is 24% alcohol by volume and 48 proof. So those are some of our products. And as you mentioned, most of them are award-winning products. So if we move over to the next slide, you would have seen in 2018, we would have won double gold for our pure white product, gold for our black gold, superior light, exotic spicy, special dark, old grog, and passion fruit products. And we were classified World-Class Distillery 2019. In 2019, we also won double gold again for our Clarke's Court Pure White. We got gold for our Amazing Chocolate Liqueur, our Clarke's Court Superior Light, and our Clarke's Court Exotic Spicy. We won silver for our coconut rum and our Clarke's Court Camerhorn Liqueur. In 2020, we won gold for Pure White, Special Dark, Superior Light, Exotic Spicy, and our Old Grog. Silver for our Clarke's Court Passion Fruit and our Clarke's Court Black Gold. And of course, this year, despite COVID, we're happy to say we were classified Distillery of the Year Gold and Award 2020 Rum and World Class Distillery 2020. So there's a lot of pride and a lot of work that goes into producing our products. And we're happy with the recognition that we receive outside there in the world. Back to you, Matt.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think it's clear to me that I need to return to Grenada. It's such a beautiful island.
Definitely.
Yes.
Things have changed so much within the factory itself since you've been here last. So a visit is definitely due.
Yes. I'll talk with Vaughn and we'll make it happen somehow. So we have some questions here that have come in while you were talking. Several of them are from Eric Ringo, who we know works for your neighbor to the north over up at Renegade, who's about to start making rum, as I understand it. So he has a bunch of technical questions. So the first one is, how do you sanitize?
How do we sanitize? Where?
Yeah,
it depends on.
I assume he means like the fermentation vats and things like that.
Okay. Well, currently we do a steaming of the vats, rinsing of the vats prior to the propagation / fermentation stage.
Okay.
Depending on if it's really excessive, we may have to do a diluted caustic cleaning, but that is usually not the case. So it's basically steam. Applied steam.
Okay. If Eric needs help, he'll post another question here. Next question from Eric is: Do you top off your barrels annually? You basically like combine and condense barrels at the same age.
That is something that we don't necessarily do it on a specific schedule. It is something that we honestly are working on having a better coordination of. Because to Eric's point, you do notice that with time you have evaporation, of course, taking place in your cask, and it would be better suited to blend them together and then recast them. So that is part of what we're doing improvement-wise for our cask management. So typically what happens is when we would have our cask room operator, he would be doing his rearranging and he would be just monitoring some of the casks, and then we may do the topping up. but it is something that we're looking to do more frequently. What the new bottling line allows is for a little bit more time from blending's end to put more attention to our cask management. So we're looking forward to having that time available now.
Okay. The next question is from Vaughn. What do you do with your rectified heads? Oh, I think we
Oh.
Makalani.
Okay, so the rectify heads we store in a separate tank, and some persons actually purchase it for industrial use. So that's basically what we do with the heads.
Yeah, yeah. I thought, would that be the methylized alcohol that I think I saw at for sale
Yes.
there? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question from Eric. He has lots of questions. What's the diameter of your column still? I assume Makalani would be the one who could answer this best.
There's a bit of a crazy lag going on.
Okay. Can you? Oh, you're muted.
Huh?
Okay, can you hear me now, Makalani?
They can hear me.
I can hear you.
Makalani, we can hear you.
We'll have to verify that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Makalani might need to go over by you, Malika. But he seems to be stuck on his screen.
Yeah, he seems screen seems
Yeah.
frozen. Yeah, I mean,
Well, we're neighbors, so I'm trying to relate to him.
Okay. Yeah. No, if it's not a terribly wide column, and what you saw there in the picture, and there's some more pictures in my article write up, but it's not a terribly wide column. There's the cladding on it, there's white cladding on it that makes it look a little bigger than I think the actual column itself is. And okay. So I guess, well, if we give Makalani back, we'll plunge ahead with what Malika and Kirk can do here. Next question. You talked about oak chips, or oak chips, which I assume would be if you put oak chips in the barrel cask for aging or assisting in aging, are they American or French?
American.
Okay. The next question from Vaughn. How many persons are in your sensory organoleptic team, and how do you choose them? How frequently do you sample with the team?
Well, technically we want at least 5 persons when we do the appraisals, but there is a wider team. We actually have some training to do with more people to get more persons on board, but we use a combination of the blending team, the quality control lab team, and we also pull some persons from various departments so that we could get a wider opinion on the products.
Okay. This is a technical one, and I believe he's probably asking barometric. But Eric asked, "What is the barometric or BAS? I think BAS pressure of your analyzer?"
Hold on. The barometric pressure of the analyzer. Wow.
He wrote BAS, which I assume is barometric. I could be wrong. I'm not a distiller. Oh, Makalani, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. don't have that. I don't have that information off the top of my head. It's not a spec that I haven't checked that in some time. I can't recall right now. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then I think this is the one. No, maybe more. With Vaughn asked, when are you going to crank up your cane grinding equipment and distill some cane juice rum?
One, no idea right now. We don't see that in the short-term future. So I really can't answer that, Vaughn.
Yeah, no, but I will share that when I was there, they did crank up the steam engine. I got to watch it go, and all those gears in the picture are going, and it's a very impressive sight when you see it. So I assume there would be a substantial investment necessary to get new mill roller stuff to get any real yield out of the cane and things like that. But it would be a really cool thing to see. Let's see if we got any more questions. No, I think that's it. That's all we have for questions. I want to thank you all for participating in this and answering questions and taking us inside of Grenada Distillers. Anything you want to say before I wrap up and hand it off to Will?
Well, thanks for having us, Matt. We enjoyed it. I hope everyone watching enjoyed it. And we invite you to visit our website and visit us at Grenada Distillers once COVID is over.
Yeah. Great. So thank you again for that. Stay tuned. In 2 weeks, we have another very exciting distillery that we'll be featuring here. I can't share exactly who it is yet, but I will tell you that we are heading to the island of Barbados. So stay tuned for that. Will, you want to take us out?
Yeah, no, just want to echo everything Matt said. Thanks to all of you for putting together this presentation and taking the time to take us inside Grenada Distillers Limited. It's always great to kind of see behind the scenes at these distilleries that, especially right now, we're not able to visit. So really appreciate that. To everyone attending, you've probably noticed there's a little button underneath the video that will take you to Grenada Distillers website. So I encourage you to go there, check it out. There's a lot more information there about the distillery, many of the products that you saw during the presentation. And yes, very excited for the next presentation in 2 weeks that Matt dropped a few hints about. So hopefully we'll see all of you back here for that presentation as well. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.